You will start the tech directing. We're good to go. Hello, marketers, and welcome to the August edition of our Team CMO S'mores Campfire Chats. I'm your host, Liz Lathan, Chief Community Officer for Team CMO. These campfire conversations happen once a month, and the Team CMO members get to be here with us inside the Zoom. We also broadcast the first 30 minutes live to our YouTube channel for a broader audience, our top of funnel engagement, if you will. And then we cut the broadcast, and the second 30 minutes allows for us to have a conversation. Today, I'm joined by Tom Daly with Relevant Ventures. Tom and I were introduced by our mutual friend, Dorothea of Social Media Espionage. And I am not one of those people who does a lot of research before a casual meet and greet. So I hopped on a Zoom with Tom and we hit it off. He shared some incredible stuff with me, and that's when I invited him to join this. But then I Googled him. This guy, 2015 Mobile Marketers Hall of Fame, two-time top 10 Adweek 50 most influential marketers, Atlanta's Mobility All-Star, Ad Age's Digital Media Master, Media Post's OMMA Online All-Stars, Business Insider's 30 most creative people in mobile advertising, Mobile Entertainment's 50 most important people in mobile content. My goodness, Tom, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm embarrassed. That's what I am. I'm an in the shadows guy, kind of helping people that I support do what they need to do. So that is awfully generous of you to share that out. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't nervous talking to you last time, but now I am. So
that's why you don't. We're all figuring this out.
Exactly. Well, tell me a little bit about how you got to where you are now. So Relevant Ventures, you've been doing for how long?
It's been operational for a while, but really my full-time thing since the beginning of 2017.
Okay, awesome. Wow. So it's been quite a while. And before that, all these awards piled up. How and why?
Started off as an ad guy. Took that literally Madison Avenue, great list of clients, began a journey south through Washington, D.C., ultimately ending up here in Washington, in Atlanta, Georgia. Took a job with UPS as a guy making television commercials about stuff, technology. In 1995, I tripped over UPS.com, learned some language and vocabulary, and started a digital career. Led digital, created the interactive communications group at UPS, went to ING as the VP of e-commerce, figuring out how to tie together a whole bunch of different systems resulting from some acquisitions. Stepped away because I was tired and it was draining, but saw an opportunity at Coke. And in 2005, joined Coke and helped launch Coca-Cola.com, turning it from a website about the brand, about the company, and into a website about the brand. And there was a job there at Coke. I did that as a contractor. I did that transition as a contractor and wanted a full-time role. They wanted me, but they weren't going to give me the job I wanted because I didn't know mobile. And so I said, okay, I'll show you guys. And off I went. I went to a conference, sat in literally the front row, front table, raised my hand, talked to the president of the Mobile Marketing Association. Here's the deal. You guys want more brands. You're all about operators and SMS standards and stuff like that. I want to know mobile. You want to know brands. That's a happy relationship, and dug in and just kind of became a mobile guy. Saw an opportunity.
That's incredible. So what does it mean to be mobile? So is it simply just making things optimized for your phone?
No, it's not. So here's the first thing I'll tell you. One of the things that you figured out is when you're trying to drive these changes within an organization, finding cultural language that demystifies it and helps people understand what it's all about is super duper helpful. So at Coca-Cola, there's a lot to dig into. So I would walk around saying that Coke's mobile strategy was actually written in the 1920s when Robert Woodruff was talking about putting brands within arm's reach of desire, right? So that marketing students might know that, certainly Coca-Cola people know that. So I said, hey, look, at the end of the day, mobile, at the end of that arm between it and desire is a mobile phone. So our only choice is whether we want mobile to be a barrier to or an enabler of desire. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes obvious, well, we want to make mobile an enabler of desire. So what do? Well, you take a look at your value chain, right? And you figure out how product moves from one end to the other and how money goes the other way back. and you look for the areas of friction, right? Things where mobile or any technology or any marketing thing can remove that friction, right? And get the products moving faster and get the money coming back, more money coming back faster. So it's not just optimizing your mobile web presence. It is how do you, in the case of a big company like Coca-Cola, how do you exploit the existence of 15 million pieces of cold drink equipment? How do you use location? Hey, mobile payments are going to happen. The friction of cash, right? From a consumer point of view, everyone's had that experience. They walk up to a vending machine and the bill acceptor is not working. They don't have the right change. Don't have your credit card. Well, you always have your phone. You're out working out, whatever. Could be that. It could also be, just apps that solve business problems. On an operational side, back in the day, I learned that over 50% of all of Coca-Cola's transactions on a business to business side were cash. So think about India, think about China, think about Africa, think about places where they're not doing EFT and stuff like that. So figuring out ways to facilitate the mobile transfer of money, create it's a million things. So no, it is, it is in part about mobile optimization for your websites, getting your head around app experiences that do something useful and unique. But if you choose, and if you are in a position where you're allowed to explore up and down the supply chain or the value chain, find lots and lots of places where mobile can make a difference.
Yeah. So organizationally, is it mobile and digital, are they within the same realm or do they tend to be separated?
They weren't at the time, and I can appreciate folks trying to put it in the same bucket. But what I will tell you is they, as I learned when I was told that I couldn't have the job that I wanted, it works differently, right? Those screens behave differently. Folks will use language of, we're screen agnostic. We just want to reach consumers where they are, whether that's through a TV screen, a gaming device screen, a mobile phone screen, Screens are different. They have religion, right? They do things differently. They behave differently. Consumers engage with them differently. So if you've got a team of folks who are cognizant of that and can live with the nuance and the difference, and frankly, the complexity of those differences, then sure, bundle it together. But when you do that, there's a lot of deep philosophical thinking. When you try to simplify things and bring them together, what tends to happen is that you lose the nuance, right? You lose the deeper understanding of what the specialty is all about, whether it's mobile or paid search or social or organic search optimization. Those things are deep and they're complicated. We've all seen the Lumascapes, and we know how fragmented those ecosystems are and how complicated they are and how fast they change and at different paces and in different ways. So personally, I argue for specialists, right, and leadership in the CMO suite to kind of figure out how to orchestrate and get the systems and structures in place so that those people with different skills can kind of get the most from one another and lift all the boats. Now, that's a big company mindset. If you're listening from a smaller company, you don't have thousands of marketers that you're trying to organize. So then maybe you don't have a choice, but do recognize that those people, I guess the last point I'll make on that question is that do recognize those people, they need training. They need to know that they're different if you really want to extract maximum value from each of those specialty capabilities.
Yeah. So you spent so many years in an extremely complex organization, really digging in and getting mired in things. And then 2017, you said, we need to simplify this. How do we pull people from the 5-foot view to the 100,000-foot view? So tell me a little bit about the concept that you help people with now.
Yeah, so the concept, I call it the 4 currents, right? And because my personal branding, I turn big ships in small spaces towards a digital future. And if you're going to do that, and what that means is, big ships, Coca-Cola, UPS, ING, or big ideas, mobile or blockchain or generative AI. I'm the guy. I'm not going to tell you about TikTok versus Snapchat. That's real. People need to know that. That's just not what I know how to do. What I know how to do is take a look at these future things and kind of decide whether they're going to be real and important or not. When you find them, you really only have two things you can manage, right? So we did this at Coke. It was a very complex environment at Coke. The last 2 years at Coke were crazy complicated, and very, very political, even by Coke standards, if I'm with respect to my colleagues and the company. So we came up, I had this epiphany. Look, it's all about managing people and money. Those are the only two things. And with people and money, you do everything, right? Whether it's make Coca-Colas, rocket ships, baked goods, furniture, whatever it is, it's some combination, which is not helpful. All right. But what is helpful is understanding that all people fall into one of only two buckets. They can only be on your payroll or they are not. There's no other way. It's just that they're on the payroll or they aren't. And with money, the same deal. There are only two ways you can look at money. There's either a knowable ROI or there isn't, right? And a knowable ROI means somebody could figure it out. Maybe you don't know, or maybe you don't have access to the tools to kind of get to it, because it can be expensive, but it's a knowable thing. Things that aren't knowable, let's call those innovations. The things that you know you need to do that don't have an easy way. Generative AI, do we really know what it is? So those four things, right? Everything that I was doing at Coke, everything we were doing at Coke, could be sourced back up to one of those four themes. So what I've done now since leaving Coke is I've taken that model and worked to kind of commercialize it and make it accessible to people, right? So questions that I ask, right? About each one question, one simple diagnostic question. If I wanted to understand about ROI, I would ask people, do you think you're getting an ROI for your investments? Whether it is in investments in sustainability, investments in digital transformation, investments in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I get an answer back. The other thing I do is that I ask for your title and function. So how you answer that question depends on your title and it depends on your function. And it turns out that there are gaps in confidence and alignment. Mm-hmm. So when I do this, or when anybody listening to this, ask those questions, but then follow up with the why. Why don't you think you're getting an ROI? Why don't you think you're getting clear and consistent value from external partners? Why is your company not quick to embrace emerging technology?
Where's the gap? Do the people higher up not see the ROI or see it more than the people closer in?
It's everywhere, right? So across the C-suite, there are gaps. If I were to take a look at crosstabs of C-suites who answer the question, is our company the one to beat? Not everybody in the C-suite has the same answer. If I were to ask an entire organization, every level of management, is this company the one to beat? You will find gaps between middle managers, senior managers, C-suite executives, entry-level folks. People just don't have the same answers. And it's those whys, right? So if I'm going to use my turning big ships analogy, those are two things. One, that makes me a tugboat. I'm not the captain, right? That's not what I do. And I'm not built for the journey, right? Tugboats don't take you across the ocean, right? I'm just going to get you focused in a direction to avoid rocks. Every time someone says, well, no, we don't embrace new technology because, everything has to be ROI driven. Okay, well, that's a solvable problem, right? No, we don't get clear and consistent value from external partners because we don't onboard them well. Okay, that's a solvable problem. And somebody can make a decision about whether they want to solve that or not, right? Are we the company to beat? Everyone would say, yeah, Avis, right? Avis was all about being number two. Maybe the point is not to be the one to beat, right? Maybe you're a challenger brand, and that's okay. The issue is when people don't have the same answer. Right? That's where, and when you get to when you peel it back just a little bit and you get to the whys, then you can start to kind of figure out where those rocks are. You only have three choices, right? You either plow through it, you move around it, or you get rid of it, right? Those are your only choices, right? So it becomes very pragmatic. And by the way, that doesn't mean you don't have to have your longer strategy, right? Your longer term change management stuff, longer term vision on how to do this. What I do is you're not going to get there if you can't get out of port. And That's my little corner of the world, is that first 90 days, first 100 days. Or maybe you have been doing that work and it's not going as fast as you want. What's going on? Everybody said the CEO hired me to drive change. I've got that mandate and it's not happening. I know why. I can
So
find out.
take me through what the four currents are one more time.
Yeah, so the four currents are, first, number one is sort of people on the payroll, people in your organization, right?
Okay.
Do they believe they are equipped to win? The second current is about external partners, vendors, technology providers, ad agencies, social media, whatever, not on your payroll. Are you getting clear and consistent value from external partners, which is not the same as saying, are you getting the lowest possible price?
Sure.
That's not value. That's not value, right? The third current is about ROI, not from your vendors and partners, but from the dollars you put into the marketplace. Are you getting something back for them? Then the fourth area is around innovation, which gets translated into this notion of an appetite, an openness and acceptance of emerging technologies, and when your company embraces. We're the first, we kind of wait a little while. We're the last, we don't, right? It's somewhere in that continuum. I ask people for their point of view.
Okay. So let's walk me through Acme. We'll just pick, our generic Wile E. Coyote company. And they come in and we go through these four different currents. What do we do with this information? Is it all discovery? And then what's the next step from discovery?
Yeah, so look, sometimes it's a useful internally. Don't even have to ask the questions. Everybody, just take a look at the work you're doing right now. What was on your annual plan? My bet is all of it somehow ladders back to one or more of those things. Doesn't have to be just one, right? So as a planning and organizational construct to figure out where you are, super useful, super helpful, really simple. Run a workshop and kind of get those whys. Get the whys. Find what you'll find is that when people discover that my colleague doesn't think the company is set up to win, well, when the person who said, I think we are ready, hey, what do you see that I don't? Why are you so negative? Well, why are you so optimistic? And it's in that real discussion that you start figuring out how to get everybody lined up. You discover the things that may be slowing people down. And then, well, what is the project? What's the thing that we have to do? If it's about faster approval processes, okay, right? And hey, look, by the way, most of the things are pretty obvious and you kind of know that they're there. But when I show up with a chart and a bar chart and verbatims and say, well, look, you want everyone to win, you're the C-suite, you think you have the company to beat, the people you're leading do not think that. And then, like you said, I'm not for the journey. If you want to live with that, I'm at a point in my career where I say, okay, I'm telling you.
You're the Dr. Phil. You're you have a problem.
Yeah, there's a hurricane out there. If you want to sail into it, I can't stop it.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you take all of these insights and turn them into something that you can actually change? What is the next step? So at that point, you've uncovered all of the challenges, you've got the people in a room, and now you tell them, now it's time to go figure out what to do. So how do you prioritize?
Could be so prioritization is a different discussion than what do you do, right? So the thing I do is, right, so it can either be a one-on-one conversation. You embarrass me. I've been around the block. I've seen a lot of things. I can tell you what I've done to solve that problem. Super conversational, very anecdotal, but I've done a lot of stuff along the way in a lot of different environments, and I've had the good fortune of seeing things. So I just tell you, here's what I've done when I've faced that problem. Very more consigliere, right? Just I'm going to sit and whisper in your ear. Here's what you need to do, and then I go away. All right. Or we can do a workshop, right? You get people in the room and you start figuring out the concrete deliverables and the plan, the who, the what, the when. Very familiar things. We're driven by the insight from those gaps. You can take the plan you have and just organize it, right? Because we all know, especially in marketing leadership roles, we all know how complex the world is. It is, and you can get twisted around the axle easily, right? So this is a simple technique to keep the complexity at bay for a little while and create a much simpler space. I don't have to worry about all the details yet. All I have to do is organize. Am I positioning the company to win?
Yeah.
And what am I doing? And am I doing things that are not contributing to that? Right? Am I getting value from my external partners? And if not, what do I need to do? Am I getting an ROI? Am I confident in it? Right? And you, depending on the size of these gaps, you can prioritize. Look, most people feel pretty good about the ROI, right? But they don't feel so good about innovation. All right, we'll go solve the innovation problem first. Or they feel good about everything. If they feel good about everything, God bless, then you really don't need, what I know how to do. Just keep doing, do what you do. You can now have the confidence that, that you're doing a good job at the helm.
So at what point in corporate maturity do you need to go through this? I mean, what part of it is kind of preventative dental care versus I need a root canal? And when do you take this?
So what is a practical matter, this is probably easiest to do if you're sort of a CMO, for fractional CMOs. I think before you take the gig, you want to see, what am I stepping into? Right? Hey, we want to hire you guys because you know it. You're going to help us. I don't even know what help looks like. Right? Well, what does help look like? Yeah. So as a diagnostic tool to scope out an engagement, right? I would argue pretty helpful. Yeah. If you are new to the role, full-time gig, right? CMO, VP of digital transformation, VP of sustainability. We all know those roles are under pressure, right? A great tool to kind of scope out your first 90 days. Again, not the journey. You're an expert. You're a seasoned executive. You know the long game. You were hired for that. Yeah. I'm not going to influence that necessarily. What I can do is help, or this process. It doesn't have to be me. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom, right? It's just, these are the things you want to explore and then figure out what to go solve. So it's good for the HR people. If you're hiring someone and you want to find out, maybe you're the CMO, you're hiring your first VP of transformation. What does the job really look like? What past skills do I need? Proof of. Show me evidence that you have been able to help, right? Embrace emerging technology faster, because that's our biggest gap. Got it. Well, now I know what I'm looking for or the third category, right? So you're just, you're stepping into a fractional role. You're in the job. You're looking for it or been hired for it. You've been at it for a couple of years and change hasn't happened. And you're beginning to get a little nervous. People are asking harder and harder questions. If the plan you walked in with isn't producing the results, it's a little bit harder, right? It takes a different sort of mindset to be willing to kind of step back. All right, I got to reboot. I got to try something different. I got to get unstuck because I've hit those rocks. I hit that sandbar, right? And that's hard for, a guy like me. I have to live on those rocks. So I don't get nervous with that personally, but I absolutely understand why many people would. That's sort of a confession. You're showing we didn't get there. So that's harder, but also I think super powerful. And there's a way to kind of say, all right, we tried it this way for a couple of years. It's not working. Let's go try something different.
So tie it back to digital for me a little bit. So let's say I want to take this process and I just want to look at my digital implementation and try to figure out, am I on the right course? Is my 2024 going to be better than my 2023 because I'm doing the right things here? Or do I need to make a change? So can you just take this and apply it to that one silo and then go figure it out?
Yes, you can. All right. So, and I've done that, so I've applied it to silos, big and small, right? I think it's the same 4 territories. Whether you phrase your question, your diagnostic question around marketing transformation, digital transformation, sustainability, diversity, whatever your big macro issue is, just tune up the question, but stay in those 4 camps, right? Because that's it. People and money, internal, external, ROI, no ROI. What are you doing? So it can be done within a department. Doesn't have to be enterprise wide. You can just audit as you're setting up a planning workshop for 2024. And you've got 12, 20 people in your team. Just ask them, how well do you think we're doing? Do you think we're winning? And then you work those issues in addition to whatever else you're doing. Just work those issues. And it's always, I did a workshop with literally with a Department of Trade with the British government, right? And sat there, honest to Buddha, in 30 minutes, we identified 100 things that they could do.
Wow.
Right? And it's just stream of consciousness, Post-its. You organize those Post-its, yeah? And then it's just a planning process. I can help you if you need it, but it's not hard at that point. I mean, certainly not for someone working in a CMO area. You've got people who can help program, people who can help turn all those Post-its, organize them into themes, pull out the project, give it a date, give it a budget, give it an owner, right? Give it a name and do it.
Yeah. Well, Tom, you've given everything away. So tell us what happens when we engage with you and we contact Relevant Ventures. What can you do for us?
I tell you a whole bunch of really interesting stories around each one of those things, right? How did that? Because again, I've been in ROI stuff. As an example, I've had the opportunity to do the industry leading work around the ROI for digital advertising, the multi-touch attribution work around mobile advertising. I've done that work in the US, in Brazil, in Great Britain, in China. There's nobody else on the planet who has done that work. So I can tell you where it's easy, where it's hard, what's going to happen, who to talk to really help you on that journey, if that's where your thing is. Everybody on this call, everybody who hears this, have great Rolodexes. They have great networks. I've got a pretty good network too. Maybe you need some new names to help you really drill down and get the work done. So it's a combination. Yeah, the data's there. You're welcome to use it, right? But I would argue the practical experience and sort of what's behind the curtain, what's really under the surface, can be helpful. Helps tell stories and drive change and get people to understand that it's not this mysterious thing you digital marketers do. It's all witchcraft. No, it's
what is the most common challenge that you're seeing from people? So we always say same problem, different logo. What's that one that people come back to? One or two?
I'll answer that question in a really harsh way. It is people just blind to the rocks. It's the captain of the Titanic, right? Every warning was there. Don't do it. I got this. Well, no, you don't. No, you don't, right? It's going to be a problem. And, because I position myself the way I do, I'm trying to create the space for me to be that voice, because I'm not looking for the 2-year gig, right? I'm going to tell you, this is where your problem is. And you'll run into it sooner or later. Or not. It's not always doom and gloom. You navigate it, right?
So it's generally something that they see the warnings, but they can't actually see the rock. They're missing what the actual iceberg is.
Ignore it. They think they can get through it. They don't feel the pressure. Sometimes they look, I'm already looking for my next gig, or everyone. It's those softer, more political things, right? Look, anything UPS, ING, Coca-Cola. If you learn anything, pretty reasonably good political sense, and it's not a bad word, by the way, right? The reality, it's people. How do they behave? How do they work? I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a change. I'm just telling you, I'm a practitioner who has turned these ships. This is what you're going to find.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. I'm going to stop the live stream, and those of us that are here in the Zoom can start peppering you with some questions. So really appreciate you being here with us today. Thanks everybody for joining the YouTube, and we'll see you next month.